Steve, is you're pointing to a goal in mind. What is it, and where am I going? And that's what I'm trying to achieve. All of these other steps are no longer burdens. They're helping me. I'm growing.
Yeah. I got a couple thoughts that I was jotting down while you were saying that. You know, you said about 10 minutes ago, once you start doing something and you start seeing yourself successful, each little step builds for the next level of success. It's a building block kind of approach. You don't have to go from being a Little League baseball player to being a New York Yankee player like Derek Jeter. You got to go through a lot of Little League. You got to enjoy playing Little League. Then you got to get into high school baseball, and then you got to get into college or whatever to go straight. The point is, success breeds success. And if you like what you're doing and you take responsibility and you have a mentality that you are going to be responsible, and then you put yourself and apply yourself and you go through exercises and drills and you work hard at it, you will succeed. Right Thinking Foundation's slogan is don't quit, plan ahead, it will get better. Hey, Dave, I met a guy a week ago in the locker room at the Y that was having a beautiful conversation with another friend of mine. And I asked this guy, have you ever read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning? Dave, have you ever read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning?
I have not. I've heard of it.
Oh, it's a classic. Viktor Frankl was a 35-year-old psychiatrist, and he went in World War II, he and his wife, to German Nazi concentration camps. And he was in concentration camps the whole war for 4 years. His wife died, and he wrote a book afterwards called Man's Search for Meaning. And the first half of the book is about his experiences in the concentration camp, and the second half is the psychology that he developed of his philosophy of life. And what he learned in the concentration camps when he wanted to answer the question, why did some people give up and die and others survived? And that's kind of what we're really talking about here. Why do some people that are at a very low spot because their life has been brutally hard, they came up in a bad home life and they ended up doing things and they survived, but it's a tough existence. How do we get people that are going through that kind of hardship end up making something good out of their life where they become contributing members of society where they make a contribution? Well, my friend that I met at the Y last week, his name is Rick Bailey. And this guy loves to read. And he said something to me that was really brilliant. He said, at every stage of your life, you have to think about where you're going to be in 30 years. Not just next year or 5 years, where you want to be much later in life. And he said, if you don't take proper steps to train yourself now, you won't be the person you want to be later. And then I said, wow, that's my pathway to success that I did last week on last week's show, where you think about 5 years from now and what do you got to do to self-guide your own path to becoming the person you want to be. So, Dave, I think everything you're saying is the same thing. You have got to educate yourself. You've got to read. You've got to think about who you want to be. And then you got to take steps to get there.
So, Steve, let me put not a qualifier, because I agree with that. I think, 30 years seems like a long time to me. I can't sometimes plan a day ahead. But absolutely thinking, 5, 10 years out, because that seems like a reasonable time frame, and hoping that you get someplace in 30 is all absolutely great sound advice, and I agree with it. And then I go down to today and tomorrow. In today and tomorrow, the fact that you can wake up on the right side of the dirt, meaning you're alive, and you have the opportunity to get better and improve, you should feel good about that. You're in the game, and take small, good, positive steps that are enjoyable. It doesn't have to be change the mindset that it's a burden to this isn't a burden. I'm taking control of my life. I'm going to get ahead. It's going to be thousands of little steps, none of them that are that bad. They're not that bad. I just got to go get engaged and be in the game. And I think back to, my father-in-law, who was a very successful business guy, and I asked him one point, he said, I just got started. You just got to get started. And it's not horrible. I think Johnny would say right now, go back to Johnny. He was kind of stuck. As soon as you kind of helped get him unstuck, and now he's in the game, my guess is he feels a lot better. He's feeling productive. He's feeling like he's taken control. So again, I think this is the two minds you have to have. A, plan ahead, look out there, have a vision, be excited, and feel good about the small little day-to-day steps you're going to have to go through to get there. And it doesn't have to be bad. I mean, these are good steps. You're out there, you're meeting people, you're in the game.
So Dave, what you're saying is exactly the same thing that I say, that Rick Bailey said, that Jeff Heiser says. In other words, you are a stable, intelligent person that has a heart for helping other people, and you're giving good, sound advice. And so I think that maybe I go a little too deep sometimes with worrying about reaching people that I can't reach. In other words, we're not going to be able to reach everybody. There's no question. But as we go further and further into the mission of trying to help people that are stuck, the techniques that we can do to provide the tools to them, I think we all agree they got to want to change. They have to want to change. And once they make up their mind to change, then we can give them tools in the form of exercises, drills, suggest a book, let them have a positive experience, and just keep encouraging them. So I think maybe that's all we can do.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so let me add another dimension, because you and I have talked about this one before as well, and I'm more and more kind of not fascinated with the notion, but intrigued by the notion of there are a few people who can change the world. They look like the Mandelas and the Washingtons and all those guys. But other than that, life is about one-on-one. It's us as individual humans. And imagine that if every person that has the means, meaning we have a sound mind and we're solvent and we're close to solvent, but we have some time, and so that's what I mean by means. If everyone that has the means, and 90% of the people in the world have the means, if everyone made it their goal to help one person this year, just help them a little bit more, and they just ran into one person, like you run into Johnny, and you run into a lot of people, and you go to your way to help. But if everyone did that, that would change the world. If everyone said, I'm going to help one person. Now, on the other side, and by help, it usually means I'm going to spend a little time, I'm going to give them encouragement. It's what our parents did for us. It's what good friends do for us when we're down. That's the type of kind of support that people need. If everyone did that, and then on the other side, the people that need the help are respectful of that. It's not that they're taking something, they're being given something. And there's a big difference. I'm not taking, I'm being given. And they then say, okay, I need to be responsible, I need to be accountable, and someone's reaching out. If that's the world we had, our society would be better overnight, more than any of our are governments, coming up with a program? Because it comes down to the individual level. And so again, I go, how do you how do you get out of, a slump? Dr. Seuss's greatest book, Oh, the Places I Go, his quote, and that is, unslumping yourself is not easily done. I always love that quote. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. But you can do it. And you have to look for inspiration around you immediately, and in some ways, don't listen to all those voices in your head, and don't listen to the people who say you can't do it. You just can't buy into that. You have to buy into a different narrative. You got to say, I can do this. I can make my life better. It's my life. No one else owns me.
Dave, I was telling somebody the other day that life is just one trial and episode after another. Now, some of those episodes that we live through are absolutely beautiful and pleasurable, okay? But if you think today that, oh, I'm in this jam and I'll never get out of it, my life's awful, like you're depressed, well, I like to quote the song Annie, from the movie Annie, tomorrow. Look, the whole point is the sun will come up tomorrow whether you want it to or not, and you would be best served having a good attitude that tomorrow can bring fresh things and good things to you. A lot of people, they can't look far enough into knowing that it's going to get better if they just keep moving themselves forward and doing all they can without kicking themselves too hard. Some people, they can't get past crying about what's going on right now today, and that's why they're stuck, because they just can't get past it.
And those people may never get past it, and that's sad. But the truth is, you can. And it doesn't say it'll be easy, but the answer is you can. And there's, millions of examples of people who've come from much, much more difficult circumstances than any one of us live in today. We're much, much worse, especially if you live in the United States. If you live in the United States, you were born lucky. Even if you were born in the lowest socioeconomic class that we have, and I don't know what that means, but you were so lucky relative if you were born in, choose your place, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, areas of Eastern Africa. So the answer is get over it. Others may have it better than you do, but you still were blessed, and take charge and figure it out.
Hey, Dave, you told me about a friend of yours named Ray one time, and how he kind of persevered to get where he wanted to go. Can you share that? That's a beautiful story.
Yeah. So a close friend, roughly my age, growing up, near us when we were young, and he always wanted, and we grew up around the water, and he always wanted to be a merchant marine person. He wanted to work on commercial shipping. And if you want to do that, there's a couple schools, Mass Maritime, Maine Maritime, the Maritime Academy down in Connecticut, that you would want to go to. And so in high school, he applied to Mass Maritime, and he didn't get in. And the truth is, and he would say this, he wasn't a great student in high school, for whatever reason. Doesn't really matter. And so he tried, and he got rejected. And so he then thought, well, that's not the end of the world. And he went into the Navy. He enlisted and went in as an enlisted person into the Navy. 4 years, grew up a heck of a lot. Reconfirmed what he wanted to do was to be in the Merchant Marine. And so he applied, and they let him in. And he went back in and said, yeah, I understand why you didn't let me in the first time, but I'm a new person, and this is what I've done. And that commitment allowed him to get in. And So then, if you know the military